Mary Mac Bride Walsh. What's the background?
Well, Major John McBride is my granduncle. He was the youngest of 5 sons of Honoria Gill and Captain Patrick McBride, who born at the quay where the Helm is today.
Honoria Gill was born there.
Honoria Gill was born there, yes.
And McBride came from?
He came from Northern Ireland. He was a captain on a schooner from a place called Cushendun.
So he would have sailed into Westport.
He sailed into Westport, yes,
and fell in
love with the lovely lady.
Yeah,
she was an amazing lady. I mean, Major John was born the year his father died from typhoid. Mm-hmm. His father was in town one evening and was passing by with one of the sons along where the Christian Brothers used to be on the Mall, now Carrabeck House, and a brother was outside looking for somebody to lay out a brother who was dead from typhoid for a few days. And Patrick McBride said when he'd leave his little boy home, he would return and lay the brother out, which he did. And a few weeks later, he was dead himself. He contracted the typhoid.
He got the typhoid. So how many children did they have?
They had 5.
And what were their names?
Joseph McBride, who was my grandfather, he was elected a Sinn Féin TD in 1918 and then re-elected twice whilst he was in jail. He was also a founder member of the first Dáil in 1919, and that was the first brother. The second brother then was Anthony, who became a county surgeon and lived in Castlebar. He used to carry patients after theatre down on his shoulder into recovery room. I believe a wonderful man.
No porters?
No porters in those days, no.
Go on, yeah.
And then Patrick inherited the family business at the quay. And finally, Major John was the youngest, but before Major John there was Francis, who emigrated to Australia and worked there as a sheep farmer.
And Major John then?
Major John then had ideas of studying medicine and pharmacy and all of that, but rebellious streak in his nature got the better of him, and he joined the volunteers and IRB and all of that, and then he went off to the Boer War and fought for the Boers against the British, and he was commissioned with the title of Major and made a Boer citizen.
So that's where the Major came from?
That's where the Major, it was Cruiser that gave him the title of Major.
Okay. So we have a little gallery here of your background. So this is Major John up here.
That is Major John, yes. That was given to me by my grandmother.
And what event was that, do you think? Do you know?
I don't know.
Where that was taken up. And this one over here is?
And this one over here was Maud Gonne in the late... Gosh, there's a date on there, but I cannot read it. Yeah. With her Basset hound in Roebuck House, Clonskee, her home in Dublin.
And they were married at that stage, eh?
They were married and divorced, I think, at that stage.
At that stage, okay.
Yeah.
And down here we have?
Down here we have Major John McBride with his mother Honoria Gill, and that photograph was taken in Paris.
So that's Honoria of the Gills that came from the island?
Yes.
Which island were they on?
Island Moor.
Island Moor. So then we moved down to?
Major John and Major John with Maud Gonne at the birth of their son Sean.
Yeah.
And that's the
sash.
The sash there on the table. That was at Sean's christening.
This one is?
That was Sean when he was made Minister of External Affairs in the Inter-Party Government in 1948 with his mother Maud Gonne, who was advanced in years in those days.
And this is?
This is Maud Gonne in the garden of her beautiful home, Roebuck House in Dublin. After Major John was executed, she then took on the widow's weeds and she dressed in black until her own death in 1953.
And this one is?
And this was Anthony McBride, the county surgeon.
Okay. And tell us more about Maud Gonne now. Who was Maud Gonne actually? Who were the Gonnes? That was their maiden name or surname, I suppose. Gonne.
Her maiden name was Gonne, yes.
Gonne, yeah.
She was the daughter of a colonel in the British Army, and her mother came from one of the well-known Cook families They were merchant princes in London, and they were one of the few business families that were accepted by the royal family back in the day because of their immense fortune. Now, this was a talk I went to about 2 weeks ago by Dr. Margaret Ward in the Little Dublin Museum.
Okay.
She gave a wonderful talk on Maud Gonne herself and her background. Maud Gonne then took up the Irish cause, and she said she'd fight for Ireland. She went on a lecture tour then when that's in America, where she bumped into MacBride, who was also on a lecture tour fighting for Ireland's freedom. And Maud then married Major John, and her half-sister Eileen married Major John's brother Joseph, who is my grandfather. And they lived in Mallow Cottage in Streamstown, Westport. They had 5 children, 4 daughters and a son, Irk, who was my dad. The youngest daughter, Sheila, was Major John's godchild, and she is the mother of poet Paul Durcan.
Where did he go to school, Mary?
National school, he went to the Christian Brothers here in Westport, and for secondary school he went to St. Malachy's in Belfast, as did his 4 other brothers. Sean was sent to Mount St. Benedict in Gorey for his secondary education.
And what did he do after that then? Did he do any third level, or did he go?
He
went abroad,
wanted to do medicine, and then he wanted to do pharmacy, and he worked in a pharmaceutical shop in Dublin. And he had lots of jobs with Dublin Council at the time.
So how did Major MacBride get involved in the battle?
Major MacBride was back in Dublin, and it was a Wednesday, and he was going to be best man for his brother, Dr. Anthony MacBride. And going up Grafton Street, as arranged with his brother, to meet his brother Anthony, he bumped into Thomas MacDonagh, who told him of the insurrection. So MacBride said, "Let's go," and off he went. And his brother had to get his wife's to be brother to be best man. And MacBride followed MacDonagh to Jacob's factory, and Thomas MacDonagh appointed him second in command. He was very brave and fearless, and he was known for his deep faith and his great charity. In 1847, I think, he founded a famine relief organisation here in Mayo. And when Father Augustus went to give him his final anointing and blessing and hear his confession, he took coins of silver and copper out of his pocket, and he said, "Give these to the poor," and then a rosary beads, which he said to give to his mother, Honoria Gill, at the quay. That time, because there was no phones or no great source of social media, it was a young 12-year-old boy called Tommy Heavey who heard the news through somebody coming on the train from Dublin to Westport that Major John was executed. And Tommy Heavey was asked to go out to Honoria MacBride at the quay and tell her son was executed. And she just put down her head and bowed.
That was it. So your grandfather lived in Mallow Cottage?
Yes.
And how did they inherit that, or did they buy it? Or?
No, he bought it from Lord Sligo. And those days there was 56 acres of land there, so he farmed the land, and he used to grow beautiful flowers, especially the narcissus, and he used to box them and sell them to a florist in Dublin called Newell's on Grafton Street.
The whole way up?
The whole way up on the train.
They went by train?
Yeah.
So they were fresh?
Yep. He was a great farmer, and he also set up a factory making ladies' nylons. Now, I don't know how big it was probably very small, opposite his first home, which was called on Creve Moor. The McKevleys lived there latterly.
So he was a man of property?
He would have been, yeah. And he was a harbour master at the quay as well for years. But my aunts used to tell me, like, when he was in jail, that the house would be raided and they'd be pulled out of their beds and the mattresses ripped, and they had a terrible time. He and 31 others marched to the town of Westport in protest of the Major John being executed, and he ended up in Fronguk.
They were all arrested, weren't they?
They were all arrested, yeah. It's a very touching story, and they went through an awful lot. Seamus had 3 relations. The Hughes is his uncle and granduncle, and a cousin who were all arrested as well.